Okay, so now this video is about structures. As you remember in class, we talked about the structures. Structure, you can look at it as a matrix that has data that can be different. For example, one row can be names, the second row can be numbers, the third row can be arrays. So whenever you want to connect different variables together, you use a structure. In other words, a structure is a data type that groups related data using data containers. These data containers are called fields. For example, you have a class with a student. So a student 1 name is, for example, Jim. If you type dot, that means you are creating a structure. So you are creating a matrix. So the first row of matrix has two students' name, a student 2 name is Jill. Again, when you have a dot, that means I'm creating a structure. Now, this student is paying tuition that is equal to $120, for example. Well, maybe more like this or more. Anyways, so now you have a number and a name. So you have different data types. A student 1 tuition and a student 2 tuition is much higher. Let's say 40,000. So you have created data that are different. In order to do that, you have to use these dots. And this student has some grades. You can put it in a row, for example, 79, 80, 90, and 100. You don't even need a comma. Doesn't make difference, but let's keep it simple. So I have one student, and I'm assigning to this student different types of data: a name, characters, a number, and an array. So if you want to do that, one way is to make a structure. That means you can have different data types grouped together, and when you see dots in MATLAB, you would know that you're creating a structure. And then for student 2, again, you have a name, character, you have a number, and then an array. So grades is equal to, again, so you can look at this as a 3x2 matrix. You have name, tuition, grades as rows, and a student 1, a student 2 as column. And this matrix has different kinds of data types. That means it's a structure. Each of these name, tuition, grades, they are different fields, right? Name, then you have tuition, then you have grades. These field names are called, containers, basically, name, tuition, grades, are called field name. Now I want to, let's say I want to plot the all the grades for each student. So you can type for n equal to 1 to 2. That means I have only 2 students. If you have more, then you have n 1, 2, depending on the number of students. And then I want to plot. So figure, this gives me plots for separately for student 1 and student 2. Then bar, that shows me the grades with bars. Student n, that means either put 1 and then first put 1, then put 2. Grades, title, test result for, then I put a space, comma, a student, and now put their name. So dot name, automatically MATLAB goes up and put a student 1, do it, and then a student 2. And end. Okay. Now let's say, so I'm going to save it first, or just let's run it. Okay. So I have 2 figures, figure 1 and figure 2. So first figure for n equal to 1 to 2, it takes 1. Then shows a student 1 grades, 80, 90, 79, 80, 90, 100, 79, 80, 90, 100. And I wanted my title to be test results for, first it takes a student 1 dot name, which is Jim. So for figure 1, you have test results, should be an S here. Test results for Jim. And same thing for Jill. So as you see, you have name and an array, and you could plot it using a structure. So whenever you see dot, and when you look at a code, when you see dots, you know that a structure has been used. And if you want to put different data types, creating a structure is one way of doing that. Then we talked about cells. So the difference between cells and a structure is that as I said, you can think of a structure as a matrix with different data types. Let's do another example for a structure. For example, you have a student age, and you create a matrix, for example, 21, 33, 22, and you have a student's name, Jim, Jill, Jack. Now, if you write it like this, how would you know that 21 is for Jim, 33 is for Jill, 22 is for Jack? There is no way of doing that unless you use a structure. So you have to type a student 1, name is Jim, and a student 1, age is 21. So you do a student 1, name is Jim, and student 1 age is 21. If you do that, then you're telling MATLAB that this name and age belong together. So that's basically a structure. And then we talked about cells. So cells is the same thing. You have a matrix that can have different data types, but it can have structures inside as well as cells. So for example, you're creating a cell. It's the most versatile data object basically in MATLAB. For example, you type C equal to, so you are creating a cell. How do you create a cell? So for a structure, you're using dots. For cell, you're using curly brackets. So C11 is rand 3. So in a matrix, when for row 1, column 1, you have a random 3 by 3 matrix. Rand creates random numbers between 0 and 1, and there is a 3 by 3 matrix there. Then in the same matrix, row 1, column 2, I want to put some names. I put char, which creates character, and then I put again Jill and John. And then so I have the same matrix, row 2, column 1, I want to put a structure. You already created a structure here.